You mentioned Joel Embiid here, Dave McMenamin. What is his timeline? Do we have any idea when he could be back?
So we're, obviously the NBA schedule is just a vortex, and it's hard for me to remember days sometimes or what city I'm in. But I think we're roughly 2 weeks removed from the meniscus surgery that he underwent. And so we're talking about an update about a month from now. Let's say things are looking good at that point. You assume at least a 2-week ramp up at that point. So if everything goes as well as can be, he could return to the court with about 3 weeks left to go in the regular season, which one would think would be enough time to get your rhythm back and kind of acclimate himself to some of the new pieces that the Sixers picked up at the trade deadline, and be in a decent place heading into the playoffs. But again, if things don't look good, if things aren't coming along as the team would hope, you almost have to wonder, because we've seen teams do this with stars in the past, where they think it's not worth it, and we're going to try to allow the player to have the full, off season to rehab it as well. And the Sixers just kind of punt on this season and wait for next year.
I was going to ask you an MVP question, but let me do this final question here. Let's say that does happen. Is there any league concern in a day and age in which we're concerned about players and load management taking nights off? If a player comes back or he should be back from an injury and they just decide to shut him down in this day and age?
It's a fair question. I think this is kind of the slippery slope the league has created for themselves in managing injuries. That, how are you actually to tell a team's medical staff that you don't believe them, or that their information isn't as good as your information when you're the outsider as a league? And so I have a hard time believing, considering that we know that for sure in this instance there was a medical procedure that happened, that the league would have any jurisdiction to, point to an accelerated timeline for an injury recovery, right? If there was no surgery, or it was just a rest situation, perhaps the league could have a leg to stand on. But I think, considering that, he went under the knife, it's kind of all bets are off, and you have to wait to see how his body will recover and respond.
Yeah, it's a fascinating situation, because if a team is in a position where it's like, listen, we're not going to make the playoffs. Sixers aren't in that, right? But we're not going to make the playoffs. Why risk further injury? Let's give this guy an off season. Let's shut him down. It shouldn't be a big deal, but in this day and age, it's viewed a lot differently.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.